welcome everybody to this session. We are going to be learning from Traci and Larissa today. They are going to be sharing a team coach case. So they have been working together as team coaches, and they're going to share with us today their experience. So this is a space open to anybody interested in team coaching. They don't need to be necessarily experienced team coaches, but we're all learning here together. And I don't know, Larissa, Tracy, if you want to do brief introductions of yourself and then get people to say hi, or I leave it in your hands for you to facilitate this in any way you want. And I'm going to make both of your co-hosts.
Thank
So
you.
it's just in case you need anything. And I'm going to keep accepting some of the
Great.
people
Thanks,
coming.
Damien.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so we can do brief intros. Tracy, do you want to start off?
Well, sure. So actually, Larissa and I started working together as supervisors originally, and specifically supervision with team coaches. But then we have found our symbiosis in co everything. So collab connection, that's our third entity, our identity together. And so we've been starting to work with more teams now together as well. And that's what we're really excited to be able to share with all of you today. And I can't wait because we are going to ask, like, what would you do at some point during the session? And we have some great people who can contribute ideas. I feel really excited to learn from the group. So what would you like to share, Larissa?
Yeah, just great to see other practitioners here. And yeah, as we know, there's not really, there's often here's what the textbook says it should look like. And then here's the really messy reality of what it is. So I think we'll share some of that with you and just learn together on, okay, this is what we did, and there could be another several different paths that we go on. So we'll explore those together.
Yes,
And
great.
I don't know. Do we want to given the short amount of time, it feels like folks in the room know each other, but maybe if you just want to use the chat to share kind of where you are and where you are on your team coaching journey, that would be really helpful to know. We've got people that have been practicing for a long time, maybe just stepping in, supervising, all that kind of stuff would be helpful to share, because I think the community and the networking is important. So thank you.
And you'll get a chance to talk with one another because we would like to have a breakout during this particular session. And I don't know, Damian, if that's pressure on you, if you could do a manual configuration to maybe choose people who perhaps don't know each other and they can get a chance to know each other. That would be fantastic. Great. Because I think I know everyone except for Reka. I don't think I've met you, but I've met everyone else. So it's nice to meet you today.
So thank you for being with us. So shall we kick off, as they say?
I think so. Yes. And so we are intentionally sharing a messy, an interesting case that doesn't fit the textbook necessarily. And so it is about our co-coaching work with a team that's very new in our work. Our work with them is very new. I would say I don't have the dates right in front of me, but we probably had our first session just over a month ago. Is that right, Larissa? The first team?
End of October. About that. Yep.
Okay. And so, sorry. I wanted to make sure it says what we're showing here. And so I was originally introduced to the opportunity. And so I did the discovery work on my own before knowing what the intervention was going to be or what the solutions were going to be. And we'll share that as one of the complexities. But the overall theme that you'll see in what we'll present in this brief amount of time is that the big shift is from an organization where people were seen very individualistically, and there's some reasons for that, and that they're moving more towards this idea of being a team. So that's just a little sneak preview. But I think we'll get into some of the complexities now, and then we'll get into what our ask is of all of you to co-explore with all of us. And so, go ahead, Larissa. Yes.
Just to pick up on that, I think it's really important to kind of highlight something that often happens is at first it seemed like it might be individual coaching, and then it grew to be team coaching. So, that often ends up being the case as you're working with a leader or an individual, and then they realize, oh, this would be great for the whole team. So I just wanted to highlight that progression with the team.
Absolutely. And actually, let's talk a little bit. I didn't think about pausing on the previous slide, but the type of organization we're working with that might be helpful. Did you want to share about that, Larissa, or did you want me to?
Yeah, so we want to obviously be very mindful of not revealing too much because we are, still in process, and we want to protect the client and their identity. But it's important to know that they are, what I guess I'll hand it over to you, actually,
Yeah,
Traci,
sure.
to whatever you feel
Sure.
comfortable sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so it's a nonprofit organization. And in fact, let me just share this, the first bullet, which is I knew a person from a previous organization where I had done some coaching work with the person who contacted me out of the blue, actually I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago because some things were going on. And in fact, I thought it was definitely an organizational challenge that was being presented and even shared with Larissa. I said, well, this may be a chance for us to collaborate with this particular organization. It would be considered in the US as a nonprofit organization. And so, pretty small organization, about 50 people or so, and a lot of transition. And so we'll show some more bullets here. But the precipitating factor of us getting involved was somebody that had worked with me had said, "Hey, we need some help," and so that's how it started. And this person has become now the team leader. So Larissa, why don't you share a little bit about some other complexities here?
Yeah, so just underlining that purpose driven and also the diversity and inclusion within the team and within the work that they were doing, I think is really important as part of the complexities. And there was a big shift. They were left kind of with a bit of a leadership vacuum in a way, in title for sure, with the leader leaving. And there was definitely, even though the leader had physically left, the leader and the leadership team was still very much alive there, very much described as autocratic, very out there doing everything. And people were feeling very like these ropes kind of pulled and stretched thin, and not really sure. There was a lack of clarity, really. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Anything else?
division.
Yeah.
Yeah, like silos. I mean, we've all, I mean, anyone who
Lots of
does team
silence.
coaching work, it's pretty typical to run into silos. And it wasn't silos for silos' sake. It was the way that that leader had designed it really with the individuals. And so there is an executive team that we came to know, of which 3 people were remaining out of what was an original group of 5. And so there was this leader, actually very much as it's pictured here, this one leader who's gone now. And then there were 4 others, and one of the others left even before this other leader in the center did, which left 3 standing. And those are the 3 people that originally asked for help. And so one of the things they asked for was one-to-one coaching. And so, just as we all know when we do discovery, that what people ask for isn't necessarily what they need, but it was a particularly acute moment in time where that was necessary. And so we jumped in to provide that solution in the like just immediately. And so Larissa is doing coaching with one of the executive team members. I am doing coaching with one of the executive team members, and then another colleague who works with us. And so he's doing one-to-one coaching with one of the 3 people, which is what we started with. But then once we started to discover more, it led to other things. Larissa, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I think just the importance of, sometimes I guess out in the world, you get into this kind of debate of team coaching or one on one coaching. What's the difference? Oh, team coaching is where it's at, there's more impact, and really feeling it really strongly that this is not a either or, it's a both and, because there really was and is a need for some leadership development, like individualized, just in time things that
Mhm.
people are wrestling with, and also just that idea of teaming. Nonprofits, purpose driven organizations are often running very lean. And so the idea of working collectively sometimes is a bit challenging to get into that mindset. So I think that's something that we really wanted to highlight is it is really a both and piece here. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
So
and
there
there were
was
other
yep.
things. Yeah. Do you want to
Complexity, right?
maybe, yes, pick up
Yeah.
some of the
Well, and
others?
it relates to the both and piece, which is that the person that brought me in was one of the executive team members, a peer to the other two, but then was about 1 month ago, elevated to interim executive director. So that person had a new role. And then there will be a plot change here in a little bit where remember, there were 5 people originally on the executive team. It was down to 3. So there was a change to the executive team overall, which also resulted in some new roles. So definitely change, which the one-to-one coaching is helping support, but also impacts the system itself. And then I think, Larissa, you were talking to this, and would you like to say more about this, the leadership and the
Yeah, I
experience?
think I've touched on that. I
Mhm.
think that's enough said there. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But
Yeah.
then
There,
here's where it gets in. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, maybe there is one thing that I remember. So we're going to transition into kind of the first session,
Session. But
and
there's
maybe
one
this
more
is like,
thing I'm going to show, right?
yeah, maybe there is one thing around here is um, the desire for like models. Like they wanted,
Oh.
we kept hearing, we don't have a model for this, we don't know these frameworks, etc. So there was
Mm.
also a little bit we were hearing of training. So that's why the leadership
Oh.
piece. And yeah, of course, you want to speak to that last one that you've just added.
Well,
Yeah.
sure. So this is where this person reached out to me many months ago. This nonprofit was affected by some external factors and internal factors. So things that happen from the outside of their organization and their community directly targeted at the work that they do. And then there were some internal things happening as well that definitely relate to very big systemic things globally, even. And so there's been an exhaustion and a heavy weight of those that are left standing. They have gotten the services that they need for that. That is not what they were asking us for, but it's certainly present in all of the work that we do. You can't ignore that that's happening. And so, one-to-one and in any of our team work, it's something that exists, but they are getting the support they need for that. So anything else on that, Larissa?
No, I just
No.
think that's infused through everything. Yes. Yeah.
It is. It is. So we want to talk about the first session and then ask you, what would you do as team coaches? And so would you like to start with how did we set ourselves up as co-coaches for that and what did we do?
Yeah, so I mean, we obviously did our own contracting between each other. How would we hold the individual work that we were doing? How would we, make sure that we were clear on the success factors so that we knew, that we were on the right track, all of those things. And then we went to our first session. We gave a heads up that we'd be going through a similar process with the team to get clarity on what they wanted. And then, we kind of recognized that there was a lot of almost artificial harmony. It was that sort of stage where everyone's forming and it's
Mhm.
great. We love each other. We go for lunch,
Mhm.
etc. And it was kind of this like literally they were buddies
Mhm.
previously, and
Mhm.
now with the leadership vacuum, for lack of a better word,
Mhm.
they're now stepping into that sort of boss. So from buddies to boss was something that was a bit of a theme that was showing
Mhm.
up in that first session. And
Mhm.
there were many other things, right?
Right. Well, and just even all of them collectively having to take on the responsibility of leadership, even the shared leadership, because that other leader had done everything and basically disempowered everyone. So this was like we get along really well, but then like, are we ready to do the work? So the past that we mentioned here is like the it relates to the trauma, but just like the not letting go, like having to repeat over and over and over again the negative things that had happened, like really dwelling on the problems. And so we spent a lot of our first session, and we had an hour and a half for just contracting. We didn't think we were going to do much more than contracting, and we ran out of time in that hour and a half because there was a lot of venting still, even though we'd all had our one-to-ones. Like we had one-to-one coaching prior, and there was a good hour-long discovery call before Larissa even got into the picture where they had shared all this information once before. So that was happening. So anything else like regarding the confusion piece, Larissa, like about like we wanted to get them focused on what they wanted and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think that individual piece kind of was showing up in what they wanted. It was still like, well, I want this from my perspective, but we had to keep kind of okay. And if we look at that collective, which was a word that we'll talk about maybe
Later.
a bit later about how words create worlds. But I think that was showing up very much and trying to get them to understand, okay, we're working with the team as an entity. What's your collective or unifying goal?
And there was a couple of themes that relate to that. One thing was they came up with a list of 14 things that they wanted to do as a team, so very tactical focused. Even though we were talking about what do you want to achieve and have different about your team, what do you want to transform? So it was very tactical, transactional, but then also external facing. Like we need to bring in the rest of the leadership. We need to get them involved. We need to fix them. And so there was a lot of emphasis on that. And I think maybe should we ask if there's questions? Because we're going to ask the group, like, what would you do based on what we've shared? Like, how would you handle it with your second session?
Yeah. So often, as is the case with teams, there's a lot of info dump. So we've just done a bit of an info dump. We haven't shared everything, but what we thought would be, important to highlight. Are there any questions that need clarification from what we've said before we ask you to try and unpack this and step into our shoes?
Kimberly, and then Marianne, maybe. Yeah, Kimberly.
Hi. Yeah, I have a question about at this stage, you've gathered, you've heard, you've done discovery, you've contracted, you found out what they want. Have you given them any potential directions or ideas in terms of where you think might be a good place for them to begin?
Not at this point. So that's a good question. And we were just contracting during this first session. We had an official paper contract about the terms and the scope of work, but this was the contracting session. But good, yeah. Okay, so you're on to something. All right. What other questions? Marianne, do you have a question? Yes.
Sure. So, I mean, it sounds like it was a very energetic 90 minutes with lots of stuff being thrown out or processed. How were you able to wrap that up? How did you close out this session?
That's a good question. Did you want to speak to that, Larissa, or did
I mean, I think those are good questions to actually bring into we will, I'm not putting you out, like we will answer that, but I think that's a really good question to sort of put out into those discussion groups that we're going to go into, if that's okay, Marianne? Like that's a point of like, well, how would you do that?
Well,
I think
I can say what I can say is that we did take notes. So just to say that the questions we asked when we contracted, we took notes about that. So basically, we wanted to find out what the atmosphere they wanted during the sessions and beyond, how they would contribute towards creating that, how they would handle conflict situations as it came up, but also what they want out of it. And so that was given back to them. And so we did give that back to them, but that's as much as I think we can share right now. So we did wrap that up.
Yeah, and we did call attention to it in the session. Like, what do you notice here? But I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah. All right. So here's the question is that we would like for you, how long do we have? It's 24 after, Larissa. Is it 10, 12 minutes? What do you think?
I think a good 12 minutes would be
12.
great.
Okay, so Damian, if you could have people into small groups
Yeah.
based
We're
on what
ready.
okay, great. So what we've shared with you so far, maybe it's just questions that you have, but what would you do if you were the co-coach pair? How would you proceed knowing that the team kicked off in such a way with the complexities that we've described? And then we'll love to hear from you, and then we'll share what did we do. Okay, so have fun. Okay, and you put us into our own room. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, beautiful. All right, so Larissa, shall we do that?
Sure. I just said don't join because I thought it
Oh,
was, but I can go there.
okay. All right, cool.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know because I'm a can I go there?
You can go to room 4, chat to me with Tracy.
There's no join. Can you just reassign me?
You're assigned already. So look at the 3 dots under. Let me stop the recording.
Oh, let's hear what ideas came up for you. If you were co-coaches working with this team, you know what you know. What are you going to do next? What's your next step? We'll
So,
share what ours was, but we're curious what yours would be.
so to be honest, Larissa and Tracy, I had such a beautiful experience with colleagues in the room, with Christina, Kimberly, and Wendy. It's almost like we have this board of, like, I don't know, facilitators figuring out what to do and getting to the space. It would be lovely to have the team of advisors like that every time we do the team coaching process.
Phone a friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it was amazing. Yeah, I just want to share that. Thank you for the conversation.
Great. And would anyone from that group like to highlight any of the things that you came up with?
What always comes up for me first is this notion of alignment. And regardless of whether the team is new or not new, but coming together in terms of this as a team and getting real clear, and whether it's creating or recreating or remembering what's the vision, what's the purpose, why is the team, for the sake of what does the team exist? And so to get on the same page. And then I was thinking about this particular team where people already had all these relationships, and so part of it is alignment, but part of it is realignment in the sense of relationships, and then bringing it into a very conscious new direction with these are different relationships that we are co-creating now as team members. And we had an interesting discussion kind of left in terms of, yeah, but how in general do we help facilitate teams moving from self-centered to team-centered behavior, and not just the words, but really helping that true embodied shift happen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was very rich.
So I shared the joke that my bias showed up immediately when there was a comment about buddies. Polish people believe that if we like each other too much, we don't do any work. So, because it is too much on relationship. And somehow with like Kimberly said, alignment, relationships, there was Wendy noticed this 14 tactical goals. We somehow overlap that we are still in a contracting space on so many different levels around psychological safety in this team, goals, what do you want to achieve, success metrics, because 14 tactical goals, it's a little bit too much. And as well, we shared a little bit about how we want to intervene in the space. That probably it could be less intensive at the beginning, more like observe what's going on. However, the many layers of contracting is a must, yeah, because 14 tactical goals, that's handful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Not setting anyone up for success with that, right? Yeah. Great. Yeah.
So maybe let's hear from one more group because we need to keep things moving along. So who else would like to share? Sunny, yes, please.
Rafael and Mauricio and I talked, and before Mauricio joined, we talked about the trauma that you indicated. You didn't get to ask enough questions about that, but especially about trying to deal with external problems without dealing with the internal problems. And Mauricio interjected with this whole idea of trust and using Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team, because they seem pretty dysfunctional, to start with that. And then we talked a little bit about, I really felt to start somewhere with values, what the team values are really, and get that part, which is what I think, who was it who just said alignment? Kimberly talked about alignment. Get their values in alignment, because a lot of teams start with a mission to do and not with the being part, which is the values part. And values, vision, and mission rather than mission, vision, and the values. That's too late to come up with once you're doing, to find that common ground.
Thank you. Thank you all. And we could continue to hear your rich harvesting of this advisory board, this like really great space that you all had. And now I'm realizing we should do this more often. And so you are all on to so much of where we headed. So Larissa, would you like to start us off about like what are we showing here?
Yeah, so just as was pointed out, we did really feel like alignment was the place where we needed to connect those dots. And to your point, sort of look at, what is the purpose of their work? What brought them to their roles? Some of them actually, since that meeting, they're stepping more into it. I'm flashing back to, a comment that was like, oh, I was actually not wanting to step in. I was thinking about this is just an interim role. And now, hearing that, okay, we're actually, I want to be in this role because I can see the connections. So that realignment piece, we shared our observations very transparently. We heard from them. We shared the team leader's wish, but we didn't just say, okay, and that's it. That's where we're going. We kind of had them align around that and see like, how did that resonate? Did that make sense for all of them? And what would you pick up from what I've shared and add, Traci?
Yeah. So in that alignment meeting, so we specifically said this is not a coaching session. This is an alignment meeting because of what had happened in that first coaching session. That's when we decided to say maybe it's not team coaching that you need specifically on its own right now. That we were feeling that they might benefit from a bit more structure and guidance on our part. And that's what we're putting here. And I think even Inga, you used the word intervene. And so it's really about, at this point, we wanted to suggest some agenda items rather than find out at the beginning of each team coaching session in service of the greater team outcome. We wanted to suggest what the plan could be. And so this is where we're at that conundrum space that many of us face in these situations when you're working with systems. It's not always pure team coaching. And so we're being very clear with the team. They wouldn't know. They would just think, great, give me Lencioni. And we did actually. So we proposed some Lencioni tools, both the 5 behaviors and the 6 clarity questions that are part of that, which relates to values and purpose and vision, like who we are, why do we exist, what's most important right now. So we're starting to do a bit more guidance, and we actually do this a lot in our supervision groups, don't we, Larissa? Like we have a continuum, right? And what do we use on that continuum?
Yeah, I mean, I think our preference often in supervision is that magical sort of emergence, and we love that in team coaching as well. But we also obviously recognize when structure is needed, and it's finding that sweet spot. And I think perhaps the very first meeting there was the we had a structure, but even with that structure, we put even more structure to kind of help focus people on connecting and doing that realignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another part of this slide is showing that we do have five entities, five individuals in a circle, because the team did go from 3 to 5. And so the team leader recognized that there was a gap on that executive team and invited 2 additional members to join our second team coaching session, which happened 1 week ago. I think it was 1 week and 1 day ago. It was on a Monday of last week. And that one was much more interesting because we had some reflective activities to take them through. And Larissa actually came up with a suggestion of how we started. And did you want to share what we used as a tool?
Yeah, just to get, I think, get them to understand where they were, etc. We did think a little bit about one tool, and then we thought, okay, that's just going to give us more of this. This is how things are from my perspective. From my perspective, we really wanted them to see that overall kind of where are you, and so we did walk them through kind of a paper constellation, which, that was one of those times where they were actually all in the room together. And we were like, oh, we wish we could be there to do it more physically, but it still, I think, worked quite well. We did a sort of a where are things now, and then where do you want them to be? And there was a lot of richness in those mappings. So do you want to speak a little bit to that, Traci?
Well, there was a word, and Larissa, you started to reveal that word early, and this came from the team leader, the one that I'm doing the one-to-one work with. This team leader doesn't like the word collective, and so there's some stigma about the word collective, and so we're trying to describe what is it that when we're coaching a team, the entity of a team, but this person wants the word unified, and so working unified as a group of individuals, or not group, but as a team, so unified as a team, and so we had them consider that as they were creating their constellations. Like, what would it be? What does it look like in that future state, on that future map of being more unified as compared to how are they operating today? And it was quite eye-opening just visually for them. So thank you, Inga. It was nice to see you. Good to see you always. But yeah, so it was a really fun exercise, and that was not how we ended. We did the education piece then. So we went on and did some education about what is it to be a team. So we educated more about what a team is, and then shared things like the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team, including the trust and productive conflict and some of those elements, and the ability to hold each other accountable. And then we showed them what the 6 clarity questions are, because we want to give them some choice, because the idea is we're going to be co-creating the sessions going forward. And I think today we just have the confirmation that our next time is the 2nd of December. So we'll be able to continue building on the success of last time. Larissa, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I guess, this whole idea of, seeing them in their regular business, I think that's something that, is probably something that might be really valuable, that we're just trying to get it, we're early days. So there's lots of different pathways and directions that this will go. But as you said, it's kind of co-creating that with them. So we've left it with them to sort of say, okay, where are you with the questions? What's coming up for you? And then we have some ideas. We'll see how aligned those are. And then, maybe in conversation, negotiate what needs to happen next.
Yeah. But the key to our success is each other. And so just as we really appreciated you all in conversation with each other, I think this would have been very difficult for a single team coach to be navigating this space. And so we've kept each other, checking on that, watching the dynamics of the group. So we're holding different spaces at different points in time. And then our reflection together has been amazing. And then having you reflect with us. I mean, this is almost like supervision of team coaching. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So we really appreciate that. But we would not go this solo at all. And so I'm honored to work with you, Larissa.
Yeah, thank you, and I am as well. And we do have a few moments left, so I mean, there might be some questions. We are purposely, consciously not saying too much, but trying to give enough so that gives you a flavor. So we hope that it's landed. But you know, if there's things, I know Marianne, you had that question originally. I'm not sure if that got answered satisfactory, but open it up if there's anything left that anybody wants to comment on or ask about.
If you have this information and you want to put it in the chat box, so it's easier for people to reach both of you, but I think both people know you and know how to find you. But
Yes.
just in case, that's also helpful to have it in the chat box with
Okay.
your LinkedIn contact. Particularly, you may not be connected with them in the LinkedIn.
Oh, sorry. Let me
site.
stop sharing. I'll just because now it's taking up the wrong place. But sure, we can go
That's
ahead
okay.
and put that
That's
in.
good.
Yeah. Yes. I'm trying to think. We actually have a company page now because it's really about our collaboration with one another, but then broadening that to more people too. So we're really about the value of conversations like this today about how do we have more people coming together to reflect, and that's our dream, is to create spaces like that.
Yeah, and we want to continue with this space. The idea is that we meet every other month, not every month, but every other month, where different participants of this network bring cases like Inga presented in the past, Susie Warman, and I want to invite everybody here to present. So just let me know if you have a case, like particularly if you're working right now in a case. It's a great way to get us, Traci and Larissa talking about kind of supervision, where you can benefit too. So everybody benefit from discussing the case, but you also benefit because it's the work you are doing. So
Exactly.
let me know. Let me know. Everybody here has my email, just in case I want to also put it here. And I would like to have a calendar for the whole year for next year. So if you think that you want to present in one of the months, let me know.
Thank you all. All right.
Any
Nice
last
to see
question
you.
before we go? I think that we still have 5 minutes. If anybody has any question for Larissa or Traci before we go. Yeah, Cristina.
I have a little
Yes.
question,
Okay.
Traci, Larissa. It was about the trauma that you put at the end. How did you deal with that? And we were talking about doing external work. That internal work, the healing from that was probably an ongoing thing. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
They have help. They have specific people that are working with their organization that are focused on that. They're devoted to that because it's so present. But it certainly shows up still in the one-to-one work and in the teamwork. Although it's starting to become less pervasive at the team level. I really feel like there's a lot more hopefulness right now.
Good.
I think allowing a little bit of that ventilation and acknowledging it was really important up front, and not trying to kind of shut it down. But I think now there's something else to focus on. And I think the title of our presentation, the title slide, was like obstacles and opportunities. I think just remembering one of the words, like the word chaos. We kept hearing chaos, everything's chaotic. And it's a bit cliche, but the Chinese character is danger and opportunity. So pointing that out, that helping to reframe, while not pushing aside, like minimizing the trauma, because it's there in many ways, especially some of the population, etc. And
it's a good itself can be traumatic for a lot of people.
True.
Exactly.
I know. True. There's like layers of it. Right.
Yeah.
But there's also hope and they know that they have a big impact on large communities too. So yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank
asking
you.
about that. Yes,
Thank you.
all.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Traci, Larissa, for putting this together before another session that we had a few hours ago. So it's one after the other. So thank you for being willing to work together, to collaborate. Thanks, everybody, for coming. And we hope to see you in future programs.
Yes. Thank you. Nice to see everyone again. Take care. All right. Bye.
All the best.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.